Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. My name is Louisa Havers and I help high achievers, entrepreneurs and coaches lift the lid on life and business so that they can live at their highest value. Each episode we will bring you our favourite founders, CEOs and guest experts to share with you their insights and strategies to expand your wealth consciousness, your spiritual leadership and aligned business strategies. We know that living in alignment with your soul's mission is what fulfills you, and we are here to show you how to achieve this in an energetically aligned way. If you haven't already, be sure to claim your free abundance activation in the Akashic Records. Go to louisahavers.com/gift to unlock your abundance activation today. And if you'd like my support in having aligned success in life and business, then contact me at www.louisahavers.com and let's explore together if it's an aligned match. Get ready to live at your highest value and to expand into your next level of money as you elevate and receive more. You create more for others. Righty ho, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to our episode this week. I'm so excited. I have the fabulous Michelle da Silva here, who is a life coach, author, and a motivational speaker. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, Louisa. Thank you so much for taking the time and having me on. I'm really excited to be here too.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So I'm going to share a little bit about you so everyone can get to know you, and then we'll dive into all the things. Michelle, you share that you have experienced highs and lows in life like everyone else, but have always had a curiosity about life and the existence of all that is, the universe and everything in it. Michelle has always known deep down that her aim was to work with people and help them to reach their full potential, because that's what you wanted for yourself. Oh, yes. And this led her to writing the book, Understanding Your Life Purpose Triangle. Michelle understands the freedom that comes with finding purpose, and that it's not always what we necessarily think it is. Understanding Your Life Purpose Triangle was written to help as many people as possible. And Michelle, you also run classes, workshop events, and one-to-one sessions. Oh, this is so exciting. Purpose is such a juicy, juicy topic. So a huge welcome. And congratulations on writing your book. That's phenomenal. I'd love to dive into that in a second. But before we do, I always love to started asking everybody, what does prosperity mean to you? So I'd love to ask you that as a way to open up our conversation.
Yes, that is a lovely, lovely question, actually. And it can mean so much different things for everybody else. And I was actually quite surprised when I was thinking about this and actually what it means to me. And for me, prosperity means growth. Okay. So if I'm continuously growing as a person and learning as a person, then what I have found through that natural growth is then what creates opportunities for myself to then be able to achieve the things that I've always wished to do.
Love it.
Yeah. So by growing up, I'm always learning, I'm always changing, then I'm always able to achieve.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? We want that growth across all areas of life, not just in one area and thinking, yeah, we were really prosperous with money, but not feeling prosperous in our relationships or the other different areas of life as well. I'd love to go back a bit to the beginning. You know, how did you start your business? Because, well, what made you start it? Because there's always a story behind how businesses evolve. So I'm just really curious to find out yours.
It's intriguing because the thing is, it's like, I suppose anybody who starts something, it could be something that you could be running away from years. And then it gets to the point where you can't run anywhere. You can't run anymore. You wake up one morning, all right, this is it. I have to take the plunge and I have to do it. So I worked in hospitality before becoming a life coach. So I've always coached in one aspect or another, because I've worked with teams and managed teams. So that was always, part of the things that I did do in life. But then it got to a stage through a lot of self-reflection within myself. And that's where it goes back to, experiencing the highs and lows. there was always an inner feeling, calling, however you want to describe it, that I needed to move away from that altogether and um, do the life coaching. And then I had this pull about having to write the book. But with that came a lot of like, oh, I've spent 20 years doing this. How on earth am I going to start something different? I'm going to have to start all over again. And I think that's what a lot of people experience. It's like we have this pull, we have these voices, and then all of a sudden, I have to start all over again.
Mm.
Um, so that's kind of where,
Scary. It's
yeah,
really scary.
it is scary. But with the same breath, it's like, is it actually scary? Or is it just this, tremendous pressure we put on ourselves? So it got to the point where it got too strong, and I was like, right, that's it now. I'm taking the leap. I'm doing the life coaching. And then that's when, with tremendous resilience, came with the writing of the book. And that's kind of how it came about. So, yeah.
I love it. Oh, and kudos for leaving the world that you knew so well and taking the leap. Having done it myself after 13 years with social services and then doing the transition and then making the leap myself. That's why I was like, it is scary because I remember the roller coaster that I took myself on with the push-pull kind of sensations of I'm going to do it, I'm not going to do it, and all the kind of thoughts that come up. And then when you finally have left, being able to kind of step into this new sense of purpose without the structures around you that you are so familiar with, and actually you're starting to take on a whole new identity as an entrepreneur and a CEO of your business, and all the wonderful things that come with that. I love that you wrote a book, so let's dive into this, because purpose is something that I think that everybody is searching for in terms of having that meaning in their lives, but often people might think there's like one purpose. And I'm intrigued by your book title, Understanding Your Life Purpose Triangle. Tell us all about the book and what's behind the title.
Yeah, and that's just it, Louisa. You hit the nail on the head. Like a lot of people believing that it is just one thing. Um, and then often you reach that one thing and then often feel empty and think, oh God, like, why am I feeling so unfulfilled? I'm unhappy and I thought I found my purpose. Um, so this is where it came about, on understanding your life purpose triangle, because in the book, I describe different aspects of who you are as an individual. Um, and it begins with your influencer self. So your influencer self has been influenced by the conditions around you growing up, your parents, their beliefs, how society believes you need to be, how you're supposed to go out and get married and have a career and do this. So before we've even stepped into this world, we've got all these influence around us. Yet we are born with our own identity of who we feel that we are. And so through this process of having this influencer, a lot of the time we are acting out of these ways. And so I believe that by identifying your influencer, and through that process, by being the observer to your influencer through a lot of self-reflection, then you're able to identify when your influencer is being at the forefront of your situation. Like for instance, I'll give you a bit of an example. Has there ever been a time like when you go, you have an experience, and then afterwards you step away and you think, oh God, why did I say that? You know?
Yeah, I think
And
everyone's
it's
nodding, going, "Oh, I know that one."
and it's like, why did I have to say that? Or that wasn't nice, Michelle. Why did you have to behave like that? Like that's not who you are. But because of external pressures of who we need to be, then we often are acting out of ways that is not true to who we are. And that's why we have feelings of remorse and guilt. And on self reflection, is able to kind of go, that's not who I want to be, or that's not who I am. So, through that process, then we are able to observe Um, and by observing our behavior, when our influencer comes out to play, we have a choice on how we're going to respond. And I say respond and not react. And that's our responsive selves, because we all are very good at reacting, you know. And reacting is actually from our influencer, because it's not thought about. The feeling is not there. It's automatic. And that's what a lot of our influencer is. It's automatic because it's buried in our subconscious mind. But a lot of the time, our influencer selves actually believes it needs to protect us and keep us safe. So it's very innocent in his working sometimes, because there may have been a time in your life where you did feel that a situation or an emotional experience left you feeling uncomfortable. So
Mm.
next time your influencer wants to go, hey, Michelle, I didn't like that. So let's not enter an experience because we don't want to feel those feelings again. So it's keeping you safe, but at the same time, it's not. So if we're able to learn to break away from our influencer selves by being the observer before we enter situations or think about how we can do things differently, then we're able to choose how are we going to respond to situations. And this leaves us aligning with who we really are, our authentic selves. You know, some call it our higher selves, our higher beings, you know, but it's that part of us that we all feel within ourselves that is there, yet we can't really put a finger on it.
Love that. It's so key about that difference between reacting and responding. There's because the energy behind that is so different, and then the results that we're going to have is absolutely astronomically going to be different. And you speaking about higher self, this is my language, Michelle, and so our listeners are going to completely get that in terms of how can we live more from our higher self rather than living from the patterns and the programming that we've had that is ultimately taking us away from who we truly are. So I love what you're saying there around your book. Who's your book for? Did you have somebody particular in mind? You know, the types of clients that you work with. Who did you see it as being for?
Well, I'm I believe self-reflection is key to making the changes that we want in our lives. So if people are looking for understanding how to break away from the influencer selves, because I believe if you are able, each time you break away from your influencer self, then you're aligning more with your higher self, authentic self. And this in itself, this process in itself is finding purpose. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. It's like, for instance, if you went into, okay, I'll give you another example.
Mhm.
Like your parents, you might believe that you chose a career in being a solicitor. And years later, you're a solicitor and you're feeling unfulfilled and something's not clicking. Now, a lot of people might think of this as a disappointment because here you are in a great career, you get in, you know, a great salary, and people have developed a respect for you and have viewed you in a certain way. And all of a sudden you're like, actually, this is not for me anymore. But there may have been an influence that the reason why you wanted to be a solicitor was based on your parents' dreams and not necessarily your own. So by recognizing this and going, something doesn't sit right for me, and I need to change this, is then breaking away from that association that we have perhaps created without even knowing that we've created. It's the same like if we enter relationships and the person, you know, it fails. But society has told us that if you know, you need to get married and you need to stay together. And perhaps the person that you married wasn't the person that was right for you. It wasn't what you were looking for. But because external influences had said, like, if you have a person of this quality and that quality, and that's what you need to go for, then all of a sudden you're like, hey, like, but then we view it as a big failure. But actually, that failing in itself is not a failing. that failing is actually finding the purpose in that situation to break you away and to align you with what your true intentions are.
I love
But
that. Mm. So it's finding the purpose in that moment, in the what might feel like chaos when you're making a change, whether it is deciding to leave a relationship or a career change, because these are decisions that people don't take lightly. And there's
yeah,
often been lots of inner turmoil that's gone along the way as you're kind of trying to kind of navigate that. So I love what you're saying around finding purpose in that moment.
in that moment. But it's easier said than done because we develop this view that it's, it's a hardship. And because we yet can't see what the purpose was. And it's not until, we break away where we're going like, oh my God, like now I get
Good old hindsight, hey.
it.
You're like, "Okay, now I understand. Those
Yeah.
5 years, 10 years weren't wasted." It was actually it's that evolution of self, isn't it? That we're always evolving and comes back to what you're saying about growing. We're constantly growing. Always, if we're not, then we're stagnating and that just doesn't feel good at all, because then something will come along to kind of wake us up out of that stagnation so that we can keep growing again.
That's just it. And that waking up is your authentic self going, hey, like you need to do something. Yeah, like you're not aligning. This is still your influence, a heavy at play now. We need to recognize this and we need to break away. And if we are able to do that, then we're able to start doing things that make us happy. And that's where the happiness and the freedom comes from going through those processes every time. Because, being able to be who you are and align with who you are is what is going to make you happy. But we don't sometimes know that we have adapted and taken a lot of personas and roles, what everybody else has asked us to do, but also with good intention. There's no ill toward anybody, but it's having to then recognize that that is not who I am and it doesn't define who I am.
I think that's the key thing, is being able to recognize that beneath all that programming lies the real you, and
Mm.
that's okay to start to shed those layers of of the programming. When you were giving the example of perhaps somebody becoming a solicitor because that was the programming, the direction that the kind of parents gave them, and then suddenly going, hang on a second, I don't want to be a solicitor. um, and being able to make that transition out. When I look back at when I was doing coaching in the workplace for social services, I used to get a lot of people coming to me because I was one of the younger senior managers at that time. And people would, and there was the organization had a lot of people who'd been there for like 30, 40, 50 years. So sometimes I was younger than the people that I was having to manage, and they've been doing that. I remember having to run a change campaign where we had to change everybody's working hours, and some people have been doing the same working hours for longer than I've been alive, and then I came along having to tell them that we needed to change their working patterns. That did not go down well, as you can imagine. But when I was doing this coaching, one of the things that just you reminded me of as you were sharing the example was I'd be mentoring many social workers that would come in going, I want to get promoted. How did you get promoted? What do I do? I was very good at helping to coach people through the interview, process, etc. But through the coaching, we would discover that really it came back to purpose. They weren't feeling purposeful in their roles anymore. They had fallen into doing the social work because of childhood trauma, and they wanted to help other children themselves, etc. And then that kind of element had healed along the way as they were doing their work, and that's how they had felt purposeful and were giving back. But then also, and within that workforce, it's a very, very stressful place. You can burn out. They had lost their sense of purpose through the burnout and were ultimately seeking it again. And I found myself basically helping people to leave the organization so that because they wanted to find purpose and to find this new evolution so that they felt like they were growing again in life. So I just share that because it just reminded me that ultimately so many people would come in for coaching for one thing and actually leave with something else once we kind of got rid of all the layers to kind of find out actually who were they truly were, what were they really looking for in life, what was going to give them that meaning.
Yeah. And this is why, like, people who go on to have achievements, like in the career, or when you're actually starting up a business, because I believe the achieving itself is not the purpose. The purpose is the intention, the why. What was your intention to want to start the business? And this is why we have, bigger companies or companies that, have lost their way because it's become about other things. And when you have other people stepping in, like who mentors or consultants to help them, you'll often find they always go back to what was your mission? Why did you start that? What was the intention? Because when we start something, the intention is often always good, because we put in those extra hours. We do things without any achievement because of why we wanted to do it in the first place. And we put in those endless hours, we put in the work based on a thought of the intention of good can come out of this. And then sometimes along the way, it becomes about other things and not what the intention was and what was the purpose for doing it.
That's so true. We can kind of get sidetracked
Yeah.
and lose
Yeah.
sight of what was what's going to give us that real meaning, why we're going to show up to do the things and how we can contribute in our businesses. And I always say to my clients, it's, if they're feeling like their to-do list is feeling like, oh, it's I'm in that sort of productive energy all the time and it's feeling exhausting, is to flip it and to think of actually all those tasks that we get to do in our business that enable us to work with clients or to deliver products, whatever the business is. Actually, that's part of our contribution, and just being able to kind of flip the switch there just really helps with having purpose in the, like you were saying, in the day to day, being able to see it as a contribution. I would love to get your take on, thinking about, our listeners and everyone being an entrepreneur in business and wanting to have that prosperity and that growth that you were talking about. What would be your top 3 tips to share with other entrepreneurs in business?
Well, just start. If you haven't started, just start. If you're in something already and it's successful, or you're thinking of something that you want to bring into it, but you have doubts about it, just start again. We're always waiting. We're always waiting. We're on an endless mission to always waiting for something. So just start. Like when you were younger, thinking back, like when you wanted to ride a bike as a child, you got onto the bike. When you wanted to do something, you did those things. There was no thought process. There was no waiting around. You learned. So you learned as you went through the experience. You didn't always necessarily know how to ride the bike, but you went through the experience which allowed you to ride the bike. So start. So yeah. The second thing that I would say is that I believe if your only inability is your only limit is your inability to see things from a different point of view. So don't get attached with how things are meant to go, because sometimes we have to let go of things for it to present in a different way. So it might not necessarily mean that you are getting that exact thing right there and then, what you had thought, what you had envisioned. There could still be something that you need to learn out of that experience for it to present in another way.
I love that. That's so
Yeah.
good.
So that's the second one. And the third one I would say is practice gratitude. Because I think if you're practicing gratitude in your business, it keeps you on that path. It keeps it to your purpose, to your intention of why you're doing it, how successful it is, and where you can still take it. So gratitude to me is massive. And I think if we practice gratitude within our business, then we're able to take it to next levels.
Mm. Oh, I love those tips. You're dropping the wisdom, Michelle. You're dropping the wisdom.
Oh, who
I
too
think,
good.
we can hear about gratitude so often. It kind of is a bit of a buzzword now, but I really think what you highlighted there, how being able to find the moments within the journey to be grateful for them, it just enables us to kind of receive more of that, which is really, really important.
Yeah,
Really important. Oh,
exactly.
this is just I've just loved chatting with you. You tell everybody, so how can people find you if they would like to know more? Where do you hang out?
Yeah, so if you head over to my website called silvervine.com, that's what you'll find me. You can go over to my Facebook page, also Silvervine. I'm on Instagram, Silvervine Coaching. I'm on LinkedIn as well as X and previously Twitter. So I'm on all those platforms. But if you head over to silvervine.com, you can find the links all to the social media. And I have got classes. I have created classes, which is kind of broken down from my workshop. I've done it online. So you didn't have to kind of attend a full day event called How to Get More Direction in Your Life.
Oh,
Um, and so that's broken down to what I believe is 7 key elements to be able to work on these things, to be able to get more direction. Because your direction is not something you're going to wake up from today and tomorrow and go, right, all of a sudden, yeah, I got direction. You know,
that's it. I know where I'm going.
exactly. Because there's still days I have to figure it out for myself. So, so I'm doing that at the moment. So if you did want to come along and join one of the classes to finding more direction, I'm doing that at the moment.
Oh, that's so awesome. Thank you so much. Well, we'll pop the link to that in the show notes and your links to the, the Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X.
Eggs. Yeah.
Formerly known as Twitter,
Yeah.
and all the things there so people can come and find you. Thank you so much, Michelle. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, Louisa.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you everybody for tuning in and listening. We hope that this has served you. Please do let us know if you've listened to the episode. Come and say hi to us on the socials. Share what you took away from our conversation. And of course, do share the episode with anyone that you think that would benefit from it. Until next time, sending you all lots and lots of love. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. And if you like what you've heard and want to know more, please go to louisahavers.com. We just appreciate you so much. So thank you for listening and hanging out with us. If there's anything that we can do for you, you can email us at louisa@louisahavers.com. Let my team know if you have any ideas for shows that you'd love to hear or topics you want me to talk about. Really looking forward to hearing from you. All right, that is it for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today. Looking forward to connecting with you again. Until next time, namaste.